All right, we'll get started. My name is Chris Lesueur. I'm a product manager on the apps team. And this is Brent Pierce, who's a product owner and product engineer on the apps team. And today we're going to talk about Explore for ArcGIS. Quick raise of hand, who here is it from a distributor of ours? Just because I see some faces, I want to see. Okay. Cool, and who here is a ESRI customer, partner, or customer? Yeah, okay, perfect. Just thought I recognized a few faces. So we're gonna go over this sneak peek of what's kind of coming and new with Explore for ArcGIS. I'm gonna talk through a few slides on what we're building and things. Brent is going to show us a great demo of the current beta version of Explore for ArcGIS. So just, we've talked to the last year and a half, we've really tried to build out this story of we have this collection of field apps at ESRI. We have Workforce, Navigator, Collector, Survey 123, and Ops Dashboard that really kind of, they fill these nice little roles for doing an optimized, field data collection and working in the field, these different apps. And they all fit their own little piece there. So we've been doing this for the last couple of years. We're kind of telling this story, and it's matured. And this next year and going forth, we're kind of bringing Explore for ArcGIS into the mix of this field story as well. It's going to become more of a field tool and be used in the field along with these other apps. Today, Explore, and we've had it for the last couple of years, running on iOS and Android. It's, we market it often as the platform icebreaker. It's the way to show your maps off to your boss, on their iPad. They can log in, they can see the beautiful maps you've made and show your information off. It allows you to use your maps, on these devices, phones and tablets, maybe outside the office, not constrained to a desktop or laptop. And also other uses to discover, use, and share maps and give you a really beautiful mobile experience. And this isn't going away going forward, but it had this wonderful, it's the app for everyone, but didn't really have a focus, I think, on what on getting work done and getting and accomplishing or a focused task to do. And we're adding some features to it that have been asked for by a lot of users for since we've released it. To give it that bigger focus and bring it into that field workflow. And so what we're doing with Explore is it's getting offline maps, be able to work offline maps, and I'll talk about that in a few different ways. We're bringing offline maps to Explore for ArcGIS. Also, we're enhancing the markup tools where it's always had the ability to sketch on a map and save that as an image, but people don't want it as an image. They want it as a markup that they can use in other places. Also, because we're moving to a new generation of runtime, we're getting vector-based maps and optimized, vector-based maps and much better cartography and some other nice things that are coming in this next year. We'll go into details later about how do you get into the beta and things, but I'll let you know. Right now, it's in beta for iOS. So if you're interested, you can join the beta and use the iOS version of Explore with where these features are coming into. So offline, people want to use their maps offline. They want to, they don't always have a connection, and they want offline in a few different ways. One is that we are going to support working with MMPKs, these mobile map packages. I don't know, they talked about them this morning a little bit in some of the demos, and these are taking your vector maps, base maps, other layers, operational layers you can click on and get information about and things. Taking those from a desktop and putting them on a mobile device. So publishing your maps from ArcGIS Pro and putting them on a mobile device. Also, and that's currently in the beta now. Also, later in the year, we're going to work on demand, being able to select an area and take those web maps, pieces of a web map, offline. And some of the reasons, or who's wanting this, and some of the reasons, well, forestry. Obviously wants it. Natural resources, they're in remote areas, they don't have connectivity, but more and more we see them actually using iPads and Android tablets and things, and they want that offline capabilities. Fire and law enforcement, users that have limited network availability, or just they can't fail. The network can't fail on them. And I had an experience. I was visiting some relatives over Thanksgiving in a small, actually, you've maybe heard of Oroville Dam that's in the news that was going to crash and wipe out these people. My father-in-law lives in Oroville. I was up there in Oroville. It's a pretty small place up in the foothills of the Sierras, and had my ESRI hoodie on, and someone recognized me and just got to chatting, and he was showing me what he wants to do and what they're doing on this mobile device. And he works for a small fire department. All they wanted to do was to be able to have a map offline and be able to put in a zoom to a street and see the fire hydrants before they get there. So they get a call in, they're a really small fire department. Hey, if we're in the truck, we want to bring out an iPad, put in the street number. So before we get to that house, we know where the fire hydrants are in location to that house. A pretty simple thing that Explorer is going to be able to do quite easily. And it's something that really can't fail. They can't we came around this corner and there's no network connectivity. It needs to work offline. So just one example of what Explorer is bringing with offline and some of the use cases for it. And more than you want to know about where my father-in-law lives. But anyway, markup. Markup is another thing that we've been talked about a lot. People, this is the ability not just to sketch on a map, but be able to save that as maps and annotation. So not editing data, but drawing on the map and maybe putting in some notes and a tag or a title of your markup and persisting that. So being able to share that with others in your ArcGIS organization or others maybe even outside the organization in some ways. This supports what is often termed as redlining workflows. In utilities, they go out and they check a water main or a gas leak or something, and they're not editing the actual pipes or the hydrants or anything. They are just drawing on the map saying this is where the issue is, or this needs to be changed, or move this item here, and typing notes and drawing on the map is one use case that people in public works and utilities have asked for often with our apps. Can you support more of a redlining, drawing on the map, simple sketches? Also, users sometimes they're used to taking out paper maps, and they draw on their paper maps, and they have their notes that they made when they went to that location on that paper map, and when they go to that location again, they still have those notes. So this is persisting their personal notes as well on their digital form of the map. So when they go to these locations, oh yeah, that's what I did there last time, or that's what I marked up. So a way to communicate on the map without directly editing the operational data, the database underneath, and also being able to share that. How does this work with ESRI user levels? We rolled out a level 1 and level 2 users in the last few months, last 3 or 4 months. So with Explorer, anyone can access the maps that are public. They don't need to log in even. You can open Explorer and search for maps in ArcGIS Online that are pushed publicly. If you're a level 1 user, you will be able to access private data in your organization that's been shared with you as a level 1 user. And then as a level 2 user, you'll also be able to share the markups that you make with other people in your group. These markups are an item, and you're creating a new item, and to do that requires a level 2 user. So you will be able to share your markups with others in your group from Explorer, and also we're looking at taking maps. The ability to take maps offline on demand will be a level 2 user. And I will say this is all in beta, so not 100% set in stone. Things can change, but this is the plan as of today. So a little on the named user, the pattern. They're going to create in Explorer a markup item. They'll be able to share that. This is a level 1 user actually, be able to create a markup item. They'll be able to share that with others via email, SMS, Dropbox, whatever sharing mechanisms in their mobile platform, or as an image to someone else. But what's powerful is when they're a level 2 user, they can do the same, share it as in those mechanisms, but they can also share it to a group in their ArcGIS organization. And then those people in the ArcGIS organization can log in and access that via ArcGIS Pro to make the edits maybe on that operational data in a nice desktop editing environment, or in a web client, be able to see it in a web map in a web experience in that viewer. So this is the benefits of having that level 2 user and sharing it as an item in a group, just like we share other things within ArcGIS organizations. Anyone familiar with Publisher for ArcGIS and ArcReader? Hands up. Old school, yeah. All right, so this is, we are extending the Publisher extension. It's an extension for desktop, which currently allows you to build these published map files using ArcMap and creating them for ArcReader that runs on Windows platforms. Well, to create these MMPK, these mobile map packages for Explorer, you will use Publisher, the extension. So whereas previously I just said use ArcMap to create a published map file for ArcReader, the workflow is you use ArcGIS Pro and create a mobile map package for Explorer. The idea is that these mobile map packages can be used by anyone. They don't necessarily, you've got the extension, you've created these, and you don't necessarily have to log in with your named user account if you have a mobile map package created with the Publisher extension and you're using Explorer. It really is, people have been asking for, hey, where's our ArcReader for tablets and phones and this? Well, this is kind of that, really that fills that niche, and that replacement is, and it will work with ArcGIS Pro, as you probably know, that's where the development, new functionality efforts are going with ESRI. And these mobile map packages are quite compressed, and you can put a lot of data on these things. Your vector-based maps, your operational data, they're really nice and small. I'm almost done talking. We'll see some awesome demos. But the Publisher extension, really, this will be a phase thing. So those that are familiar with that, phase 1 will just really be able to create these MMPK files that will be opened up in Explorer. Over time, we want to add other functionality, just like ArcReader had in Publisher. That's like, I want this file to time out. So after a certain date, you won't be able to open it. Password protect it. Put maybe branding of my company, so when they open it up, I can give this to people that can use this app, but when they open it up, they see my splash screen with my company's branding and maybe understanding what this map is about. All right, enough of me talking. Brent, how's it going?
It's going.
We'll find out. I know.
You're pumping the demos a little bit, so I'm a little worried.
Oh, there's going to be awesome.
Setting the bar pretty high.
Okay. Before we go to demos, any questions? Any quick questions? Yeah.
You said some data for iOS.
Yes.
What's your guys' roadmap for the features you talked about?
For what?
For the features you talked about? What's the roadmap?
Okay. We'll talk about at the end a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of a good chunk of it's there now. But yeah, we'll go into the more details of the timeline.
It's like an 80% chunk. So yeah, right now it's for iOS. We don't have an Android version ready for beta yet. We're hoping like later in the spring. Just a quick show of hands though, how many Android folks versus iOS folks, or maybe so iOS? Okay, and then Android. Okay, so about an even split. So we're going to beta in Android probably a little later in the spring, and then right now in iOS there is, we have pop-up support. We support working with mobile map packages. The big piece of functionality that's going to come in a little bit later is this ad hoc offline experience, where instead of like preparing the map beforehand in the MMPK format, you'll actually be able to go in and say, take this extent offline, kind of like you can in Collector today. Now that will be persisted in the format of a mobile map package, but it's more of an on-demand kind of field-based workflow. So that will come in a month or so, hopefully, and then we'll put a new beta build up there. How many people are in the beta program right now? Right on, thank you, appreciate it. So encourage anyone that's interested, happy to add you to the beta program. If you guys have any other questions, just bug us after the session or at Meet the Teams. But thanks for participating in the beta. We definitely really appreciate any kind of feedback you can give us to help craft this version of Navigator or of Explorer. Working on too many apps at once here. So let me switch over to my
got any quick one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will you be able to sideload it into it?
Good question. So the question was, will you be able to sideload the mobile map package onto the device? The answer is yes, you can. So I won't be demoing that, but in iOS, you do it through iTunes. And anyone interested in just getting a quick off-the-cuff demo, I can do it after the session. It's pretty easy. Just kind of a drag and drop experience through iTunes in iOS. Android has a bunch of different apps you can do it with as well, and most of them support kind of the drag and drop functionality.
As long as your Android device can be recognized by your system as a
Yes.
as a folder, basically. Yeah.
So there's a caveat in there. But yeah, so we'll be able to support sideloading both on iOS and the Android platform. And what we're also working on, I don't know when this is going to come in, but on the Android platform supporting SD card. So if you have MMPK on an SD card and slide that in, we'll pick that up. So we're working on that as well. I don't know if it'll come in for the betas, but hopefully we'll get it for final on the Android platform. We're definitely good for time. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free. While I'm doing the demo, feel free to just pop your hand up, holler, cough, do whatever you need to grab my attention. But happy to answer some questions as I do this demo. So if you've used previous versions of Explorer, this browse experience will be a little different. What we did in the beta and in this generation of Explorer is try to really flatten out the browse experience and go away from that burger motif, if you will. Steve, I threw that in for you. One of our lead designers back there, Steve Nelson, loves that term, and we all love it too. But what we tried to do is flatten out the browsing experience and really show you all the groups right up front. So here, what you see is these are all the maps that I have access to. You can see my current map. You can see the maps I have on my device currently downloaded. And then we flattened out web maps and mobile map packages. And really how you can tell the difference between the two is web maps just have that little ellipse next to it. And see if I can pull up. There's a couple mobile map packages. They have that download cloud. So I could actually start downloading by tapping on that. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi network isn't nearly as good as what they had in the plenary this morning, so it won't go nearly as fast. I just tested it a couple times and decided not to bore you guys with the live download progress indicator demo. So I've gone ahead and I've downloaded a mobile map package to my device, but I can also search in this filter bar. So if I was to just type in, we do some live filtering right there to show you. And so most of our users said they usually just search for something. So this is a way to filter it out and get at your maps really quickly. Opening a map, just tapping on it, and it opens that map on my device. So I could be offline at this point. I've already downloaded the mobile map package, and a mobile map package is really just everything in a web map packaged up in a tiny little package that's really optimized for mobile devices. And then we downloaded this onto our device. So this is a mobile map package for the Palm Springs area. I could tap on a convention center, a room in the convention center, and get access to the pop-up information. So what we've done is we've authored pop-up info in Pro, and then packaged this up using the Create Mobile Map Package tool. And you saw Devesh do a demo of that really briefly this morning in the plenary. So I have access to the pop-up. I also have an experience where I can kind of pull it full screen, get access to a little more information, and then I can close that down. What you also have offline, which is really nice and a big feature that a lot of people have been asking for, is to be able to search offline. So we've also configured search on a couple of the operational layers within this project, and then we package those into a mobile map package. So if I tap on the search tool, top right, it opens a search dialog, and I'm just going to use a recent search. So we've configured search on the parcel identifier field, and tapping on that will go out and actually find that feature completely offline. So this is a really big feature for a lot of people. But not only is it the search configured, but also all the pop-up information. So if I was to pull that, let me clear that again, do another search. If I was to pull that panel up a little bit, you see the details, but we also have media authored with the pop-up as well. So there's imagery that's available, but I can loop through or slide through, and I get access to some of the graphs that are configured for that particular feature here. So I get pie charts, bar graphs, that kind of stuff, line graphs. So we really tried to take some time to make that pop-up experience really beautiful and present the data in the best possible way. A question?
Yeah, so from the image standpoint, I'm assuming those are basically like attachments in a file to your database?
This image,
Feature, or is that a separate type of concept for these?
this image can be a number of different things. So this image is actually a link. Actually, I think it's an embedded image within the pop-up, but it can also be like a link to to an online service that provides images as well. So if you want to have it connected, it can be a link. But there's a separate experience for attachments as well. So we don't quite have that implemented to show, but it's actually developed today. So we're working on putting it in. It'll be in our next beta release, which is in a couple of weeks. And then there's another segment on that segmented control. So you'll see kind of attachments, and then you'll get access to all your attachments on that feature as well. And then you can preview them or download them from there.
So it's not considered an attachment.
This is just an image that's configured with the pop-up, with the media section of the pop-up itself.
Download it off offline.
Yeah, it would download it for offline and have that in the mobile map package at the moment you use the Create Mobile Map Package tool. And then, this is where related tables will also be supported. So in a future release, hopefully the next beta will also support related records or related tables. So you'll be able to drill down into that relational structure that you've kind of configured in your data. And that will also work offline. So that'll be a pretty big feature for people. So a lot of stuff lives in this pop-up itself. So that's pop-ups. That's really offline in general. I'm not going to go through all the different tooling, but our key goal here was to keep it really simple. So, everything that's available for you in a web map, we want to make that available once you've configured the mobile map package and downloaded it onto your device. And then once we get that ad hoc offline experience, the same holds true for that. You would just provide an extent you want to take offline, it churns, takes it offline, and then you don't ever have to have a connection to the internet ever again. One other thing I'd like to mention, because I got a couple questions on this, is that once you've downloaded the mobile map package, if I have like map authors, say my GIS department, that are updating that with new data, I get a notification so I know that the data is actually stale, and it prompts me, do I want to download the latest and greatest version of the mobile map package? So it's kind of a nice feature as well. So that's offline. That's kind of a sneak peek at our pop-up experience within Explorer. Any questions on that before I jump off to my next section? Yeah.
So is the only workflow is to create your map package in Pro then? Like you already have a web map you're maintaining in AGOL or something. What's the front? Is that true or?
Yeah, no, so the question was, is the only experience for MMPK creation or map package creation to do it in Pro? What happens if you have a web map that you're maintaining in ArcGIS Online? How does that story fit in? Right now, the experience is to actually pull that web map into Pro, because Pro has the geoprocessing tools to be able to create the mobile map package. That's the story for right now. Where we do want to go, and this is probably not a beta thing, this is more like a next version of Explorer thing, is to also have an experience where you can create these mobile map package files from ArcGIS Online. So be able to, you have web maps, you have your web map configured in such a way, there's some tooling that'll go create the mobile map packages and share it in a very similar way that you would in Pro using the share tool. So it's a good question.
Using base maps that have the export capabilities.
That's correct, yeah. The base maps themselves, so the follow-on question was using base maps to the export with the export capabilities. That's true. The base maps would have to have that capability to be able to export the tiles that represent those base maps. Yep, no, that's correct. Other questions? These are all real good questions. No pressure on the next person that's going to ask a question. Joel, I know you got a couple. So there's some Explorer folks here. So yeah, most of the bugs, I hate to say it, but yeah, these guys are responsible for it. Definitely not Chris.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next thing I'd like to demo is the markup capabilities. So let me jump back to the maps screen. And I am going to open the Riverside Water Utilities. Now this is a web map, so here I'd have to be connected, and it's going out, hitting this web map. And this is a utility network for the city of Riverside. And if I go into markup mode by tapping the markup tool, that's where I start sketching, start marking up my maps. And really when we set out to design markup, there was two kind of key scenarios that we're shooting for that we kept hearing over and over again. The first one was this concept of personal markup. It's like the field folks had their map books that were in their work truck, and they were marking them up with pens and Sharpies and pencils and stuff like that. And their complaint was every time the GIS department sent out a new map book with fresh data, they lost all that markup. So we wanted to be able to support the ability to quickly mark up and it stays with the device, and then the map itself can slide in underneath that markup. So you don't lose the markup every time the data changes. So that was the first workflow that we wanted to support, or scenario we wanted to support. The second one was just the sharing of notes or edits from the field, the communication from the field, observations, and sharing that with the back-end GIS staff. A lot of time these field workers, they're not trained to edit data, they're not GIS professionals, they're linemen, they're people that are really specialists in their particular field. So they have a lot of insight, but they don't, organizations don't always want to give them the rights to edit the system of record. Configure the maps for them to edit it. So they wanted a way to get the communication from the field to the back office GIS staff. So that was really the second workflow. So, I'm in markup mode right now. If I long press on the map, I drop what is the simplest element of markup. It's called a marker. It's just a point. If I want to add an arrow to that, I can tap that arrow, and then I can quickly just long press and drag that around, right? So here, say I want to communicate something, I can go into it, I can add a label really quickly. So say I want to say this is, I want to move this asset, because I noticed it actually wasn't where the map said it was in reality. And then I can also add a note really quickly. So that is a marker. And Joel and Townsend, feel free to clap after everything I do. Thank you. The next thing is just a simple line feature. So here I can kind of draw a simple line. I can put an arrowhead on the end of it, do that kind of thing. I can actually straighten it out as well. So if I write a somewhat squiggly line, it recognizes that, hey, chances are you're trying to draw a straight line. I can straighten it out. I can add an arrowhead to it. I can also change the color for it. So if I want to do create a rough polygon here. So say I noticed some damaged area when I was in the field. I want to communicate that with the back office GIS guys. I know exactly where it was in the field, so I can draw a rough polygon here. And I'm just sketching it out. We wanted to make this really simple, so people with fat fingers like I have, it wouldn't be too difficult. I can change the color of that after I closed out the polygon, and then say I got it in slightly the wrong place, well, I can just long press on that and just slide it around and move it to the right position. Of course, we got a lot of requests for some way to capture some really quick notes. So here I noticed some damage, so I'm going to say that in the label itself. And then say I want to add a note. Well, let me drag this up a little bit and let me paste in some notes I already took. And that's not what I want. That's the process ID. Say I said some frost heave. Who's from a place that actually has frost heave right now and is pretty happy to be in the desert? All right, yeah, so some of us on the team are from Maine, and it was quite cold before we left, so we're loving the desert. So let me close that up, and you can add notes. So you can add as many notes as you want to this, but it's just a way to communicate something with the back office. So I've added a polygon, I've added a line, I've added a marker, and I've shown you some of the shape completion stuff. So if you're trying, and Jeff showed this in the plenary this morning, but if you're trying to do a square or trying to do a circle, we'll recognize that. Try to make it as easy as possible, do some quick edits that don't look absolutely terrible. And of course, to follow this on with the next scenario of wanting to share it with the back-end GIS folks, well, you can tap that share icon in the bottom right, and then that just brings up an option. Do you want to share it as a screenshot, something we had in Explorer in the App Store today, or do you want to share it as a markup element? And really, I'll wait till you take your picture. I want to photobomb you there. So then if I say share markup, well, that's just going to bring up the classic iOS share sheet. So it brings up all the apps that kind of recognizes, and I can actually airdrop it to some people that left their airdrop on. Eric J's MacBook Pro. You're gonna get some markup pretty soon. And then, so you can share it with any of the apps that are here, but we also customize the share sheet, so you can add it directly to ArcGIS Online. And what this does is it just brings up some options of who to share it with, which groups, that kind of stuff. And that shares that as an actual markup item. And really what we're going to be working hard on in the next month or so is configuring or working with the pro and online teams to make sure that the pro application and the viewer application can accept this markup item just as another layer that slides in on top of their map to aid in the editing. So it's a really kind of frictionless workflow where field worker shares it. They don't have edit rights to the map, to the data, anything. They just share it as this markup item. And then the GIS editor pulls that down into their project in Pro and maybe makes some edits to the system of record based on the features that, or the markup that was authored. We have a question right there.
Yeah, and so on the markup, is it actually sharing everything that you've marked up, or just what you see on the screen, or the latest markup? And I guess follow up on that is, if you do share it in ArcGIS Online, is it actually sharing it as like an annotation, or is it actually as a feature layer, or is it actually just an image?
Okay.
What is it sharing?
No, these are great questions. So the question was a two-parter. I'll try to get the first part. The first part was, what of the markup is it sharing? Is it sharing all the markup, just what's on the screen, that kind of stuff? That's the first question. It's actually sharing the current layer. Markup is just a layer on top of the map, so it's sharing all the markup in that specific layer. But you can have multiple markup layers. Yeah, so if you have, I didn't really go into that in my demo.
Why don't you show that? Oh, sorry.
It's a good idea.
You do. Hit that button right there. Hit that one right there.
Thanks. So yeah, top left, this is the markup layers view. And here you can see I just have a single markup layer. You're always going to have one. But if I want to have one for each project, I can do that. I can quickly add a layer, name it. It's pretty simple stuff, and I can turn it on and off. But what's nice is this also shows up in the layers view. So if I go into the layers tool, you'll always see this markup layer, which you can turn off, but it'll always be there, right? Because we're thinking that you might want to use markup across your maps. It's kind of the point of it. And we'll remember that layer visibility at a per map level. So it just sits on top of all your other layers, and it shares those layers, whichever layer is active. Other questions? Actually, I just answered your first part. Your second part was about the actual markup. Is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah. So the second part was what actually is markup when you share it. Well, it's its own item. It's actually a extension of or a addition to the feature collection specification. So we're working on kind of extending that specification to support all this symbology. But it's really just this item that the clients of ArcGIS know about. And hopefully we'll be able to publish it in such a way that other clients will be able to use and make use of as an item. But it'll show up in ArcGIS Online as markup, as a markup item itself. It won't look like a KML item. It won't look like a feature collection item. It's actually. You could call it that. It's not actually annotation, but it's a way to annotate the map. It doesn't have a lot of the classic labeling stuff that annotation labeling functionality that annotation does, but it's just a start. We're trying to gather some requirements as to what markup, where it needs to go, and what it needs to be. So definitely open to suggestions there, and appreciate any kind of feedback on it. Yeah.
Metadata comes across with owner.date, that sort of thing.
Right. So the question was what kind of metadata comes across with it, and right now it's super light. There's like no metadata, pretty much. We've played around with doing ownership, so which named user made those edits. We played around with which web map you were editing on top of, so tie it to the map in some way, or you could do it at a client application. But right now we're trying to keep it pretty simple. So if you have use cases, I'd love to hear them, because we're not opposed to that at all. And it wouldn't be terribly difficult for us to write that stuff into the markup when you create it. But we just didn't want to go anywhere without tons of use cases in that regard. So maybe we can chat after about that. Yeah, question back there.
So is this specifically an Explorer thing, or is there cross-pollination with Collector and
So the question was, is this specific to Explorer, or is there some cross-pollination with other applications? And right now it's specifically Explorer, but that's only because Explorer is kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to markup. I've heard some use cases for Collector. The tricky thing with Collector is it kind of muddies the water a little bit between actual proper field data collection and feature editing versus marking up on the map. So we're trying to kind of figure out what the key requirements are there if Collector was to do something like markup. And we also heard it from other apps, like maybe something like Workforce or those. So we're still kind of testing those waters a little bit, but right now Explorer will kind of lead the charge there, but I imagine that will grow with time. Other questions?
What about a text label or text markup?
We don't have one right now.
Focus on getting into notes.
Yeah. Right now we're hoping that notes will cover that, like labels and notes. So all markups have labels, all markups have notes as optional pieces of metadata that are attached to that markup element. We've kind of floated around the idea of having like a floating text, something like a callout or something like that, but we haven't, it'd be great, again, to hear some requirements on that because we're not against it. We need some solid workflows and then we kind of build to that spec. But it's definitely within the realm of what we can do. It's just a matter of kind of understanding all the requirements there. So the last thing I want to show, unless there's other questions, is the concept of integrating with Explorer. So Explorer supports what's called a URL scheme, and really that's just a specifically formatted URL that Explorer kind of looks for on the device. And when that URL is called, well, Explorer will handle that as opposed to like a web browser handling it and stuff like that. So all of our apps, or most of our apps, support this. And I actually have a session on it at the prime slot of 6 tonight, 6 to 6:30. So if you're not out having fun and want to learn about URL schemes, I'll be in Demo Theater 1. But we'll do a deep dive there, but I just want to kind of scratch the surface on what's possible with the URL scheme in Explorer. So if I just home out and go to, I have a little web server running on my machine, and all it's doing is hosting 3 URLs. And it's the URL scheme for, well, one's for Navigator and there's 2 for Explorer. And the interesting thing about that scheme is it actually supports arguments, and that's really the power of it. It supports arguments, and one of the arguments is an ID for a web map. So if I was to do something like, well, let me close the Explorer map out completely. Let me open a different map. Going off script here. Let me open that mobile map package that I had earlier just to prove it's actually working. Okay, I'll go back to this guy, and here I have a reference to that web map that we were demoing in before. It says, hey, do you want to open Explorer? And it's because it's using the Explorer scheme, it recognizes that, and it only bugs you, iOS only bugs you the first time just to make sure, and then it opens that web map. So it's referencing the ID. So this is an easy way to give to your field workers, to your users. This is an easy way to get up and running with Explorer. And I don't even have to be signed in. So if that web map was shared publicly, what Explorer will do will just launch the app and then sign in anonymously and then open that web map. So you can reference web maps, but you can also reference mobile map packages. And this is a feature we just added to the beta, and it's pretty cool. So let me go back, jump out to that guy again, and hit the top link, the MMPK via Explorer URL scheme. So if I hit that guy, it prompts me again. And what it did there is it went out and grabbed an MMPK that it was referenced in the URL scheme, but that MMPK wasn't downloaded yet. So it'll actually go and kick off the download if you don't actually have it on your device. So we're thinking this will be a really powerful way to get mobile map packages into the hands of your users and not having them to go in and explicitly download it. You could host a web application and have them just tap on that URL. And actually some of our users are doing this right now with the existing version of Explorer with web maps. I'll stop that download because you guys have already seen mobile map package. And since this is just a URL scheme, I'm going to try something a little risque here. Let me go to the QR code app, and I have is that coming across? Yeah, okay. This app kind of stutters. So you see when I clicked on that QR code, I created a QR code that was referencing a Explorer URL scheme, and you can see that item ID in there. So I can actually launch this from a QR code. And we're seeing this, actually I've seen it in the context not of Explorer but of Collector. So when you want to get up and running with a web map in Collector, Collector also supports the URL scheme. And in some situations, the GIS pros have gone in, created a QR code, built up that URL scheme. It's not that difficult, you just need the item ID, that's it. And then put this up in maybe the work area. So when the guys are going out to the truck, they would take a quick QR scan of the QR code, and then they launch Collector with the right web map. You don't have to mess around with telling them what to search on and what to open. And then if I was to tap on that, again, you've seen this before, right? It starts launching the mobile map package that I just did. So you can do some really interesting things with the URL scheme. And what some of our customers are actually calling into our apps via their app. So their native app or their web application, they're actually calling into apps like Collector and Explorer and others. So that's what I'll be talking more on at 6, but I just wanted to show kind of how Explorer integrates with other apps and how it allows you as developers to maybe integrate into Explorer if you want to jump out to it to show some stuff. So what I showed in these demos went pretty quick, but what I showed was the offline experience and working with mobile map packages and actually working with pop-ups offline and searching offline. And then I jumped into Markup, talked about those scenarios and what we built that for, and then finished up with a little talk on integration with the app. So those are my demos.
That's awesome.
Should I take more questions,
No,
or do you want to keep going?
Let's ask you, any questions right now that we have, any scenarios that you want to bring up that this fulfills, or you're wondering if it'll fulfill? If not, we just have a few more slides and we'll go to more questions.
Okay.
All right. That's great. Hit number 5. Oh, skipped on there. All right. So we just showed iOS. It's currently in beta. Android is coming. Explorer, the beta for Android, is coming soon. I'll look at our Android developers and ask when, but I won't do that. Late spring. Yeah, people are nodding their heads. Yeah, so late spring. We're looking to have a Explorer beta for Android as well. Quick raise of hands, who sees their organization using this on iOS? Okay, and Android? How about 50-50? Yeah, okay, cool. Very cool. So yeah, we are in development right now for Explorer. Yeah, you can give a business card to us if you're interested in Android beta. Yes? So Windows, at this point, we are not in current development for Windows. We are this comes up a lot. We are evaluating whether to support it, as we kind of continually do. We support Windows for Collector. Honestly, we're looking for bigger uptake on those type of apps on like Windows in the field tablet experience. Windows 10. Yeah, we're looking for a bigger uptake, and if we've gotten some feedback this weekend that from some distributors, our distributors are here. We got from other distributors and such that there is a desire. So we're still evaluating that. If Windows 10 rugged tablets in the field, you see that as something that makes sense, or that you guys would be using, talk to us. All right. So just a kind of recap on where we are here in Explorer in 2017. iOS is released this month, or it's out now for beta. Android late spring, and then that update to the publisher extension to write these MMPKs. We're looking at more towards the UC timeframe or summer timeframe to be able to write those MMPKs for Explorer. So if you already have the publisher extension, yes, it is. The publisher extension today works in ArcMap to write for ArcReader. If you have that extension today, it'll light up ArcGIS Pro to write these for Explorer. Yeah. So a little more on the feature functionality and what's coming with the throughout the year. So right now, with the beta release we have on iOS, we have vector tile support. We didn't even really show the vector tile support. I mean, that's really slick. You can zoom into a vector tile base map, spin it, and then the labels actually stay level and don't turn and stuff. I mean, it's really pretty slick. So we are built on the next generation runtime, so we already have vector tile support for those are online vector tile base maps even. Offline MMPKs are there, as well as the new markup experience. We'll be later releasing we'll have another beta of Explorer on iOS. Also, we'll release a beta on Android, and then when we go final, we'll really try to get equivalence with the current version of Explorer, and going forward, add this ad hoc experience for taking maps offline. All right. So here's some resources. We will be, we do publish these slides for everyone's availability, but because you're probably not going to type these long URLs out right now, but we did a blog announcement about the beta. If you want some more information, maybe links to and information on how to get in the beta, there's a blog announcement that was just released a week and a half ago or so. The GeoNet. We have a beta GeoNet. So the way we're organizing, getting feedback from people is through GeoNet. So we have an Explorer beta GeoNet group. So if you do download the beta, please be part of that GeoNet group. Give us your feedback. There's also information in there about how to actually get the beta on your device. And then there's a GitHub on a repository on integrating with Explorer. Here's some details about working with Explorer, getting that iOS on your device. Basically, you send us an email to explore4ArcGIS@esri.com and request to be added to Test Flight Explorer Beta. Test Flight is if you don't know, is the tool that Apple uses to manage beta. So send us an email, say, hey, I'd like to be added, and we will add you to the list. You'll be sent an email from Apple. You download the Test Flight app. Actually, download the Test Flight app onto your device. You'll get this email, and in that email you'll be given a code, which you then type into the Test Flight application, and it will say, all right, that code now lights up. It gives you Explorer Beta, and you can download that. And when we put out a new version of, just like the App Store, we get a new version of the beta, it'll update that version on your device as well. So you'll be prompted, and you can update the version on your device. As you said, there's these instructions in even more detail if you run into problems on that GeoNet group. As well as some videos on kind of some of the stuff that Brent showed, the markup, and some ideas to get up and going. And again, if you have feedback, please share them in that beta group. Some other sessions, Brent talked about the remotely invoking ArcGIS apps today at 6. Also, there's a what's new in Navigator, as Navigator kind of works in this way of apps communicating with each other and being able to remotely invoke them or open them from other apps, and then Workforce for ArcGIS. So as Explorer becomes a field app that can be used in the field, it'll also kind of be work in companionship with Workforce for ArcGIS to manage tasks, but then maybe use Explorer to complete those tasks. That's really all we have right now. Any questions from you, or actually, really quick, who sees their organization being able to use these tools, or does this fill a niche for you? Okay, good. Anyone want to share how they would maybe use these? I mean, I gave the example of like a firefighter searching for a home and seeing that. Anyone care to share?
I have a scenario. We appraise business property. This is we enter the business, and to make sure the owner name, the tax ID stay the same. In case not, then we have to write down the new owner name and tax ID. And since you are in business, you don't want to take too much time being in there, the owner and life, and we want to be able to take care of it.
Okay.
So what we need is something that you could write down, just like when I'm breaking right now on a piece of paper. This is on the board and incorporate it into the text field.
Into the text.
Into the field that we can see it at night. We don't have to go back and re-enter it. So that would be helpful.
Interesting.
So I don't know if it's to make it happen so we can use it with a survey 1, 2, 3, or connect with something.
Yeah. Well, so Survey 123 does work with this remotely invoking apps or opening apps. So that is part of it. You could build into your pop-ups there at this location to open up survey 1, 2, 3 and maybe fill out the form. That is a piece.
They have to type letter by letter, takes too much time.
Okay. So you like the idea of a pen. Have we looked much into like using like an Apple Pen and things like that? I mean, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, no, not yet. So I'm assuming the workflow would be we would recognize handwriting and then turn that into actual notes. Yep. That's an interesting requirement.
And I guess a lot of appraisal districts who have US will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the city of Portland, Maine is using Explorer to do something very similar. They just want an offline map that has all their parcels on it and be able to pull up quick information about the actual owners.
Very cool.
So we work in rural areas a lot, and some of them are actually they're excited about Collector, but only for their internal staff. But they got EMS drivers, they have anything that's harder than a clipboard with a map on it, they won't adopt it. So we're hoping that this kind of markup stuff may add to that, or give them at least make it simple enough.
Okay.
Like QR code.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And what industry is that? I just was wondering, like what?
Both with rural local government, like
Okay.
public works or emergency response, but also with rural telcos. They have to get location data now for more and more, and even if it's pretty coarse, when they're out in the field, they can, instead of geocoding, go through all that stuff in the areas
Right.
like that.
All right. Tor, you got a question?
Just a comment, I can see our law enforcement investigations using this, especially where I believe roads are concerned, they can quickly annotate things, not deal with the mapping so much as just commenting.
Yeah.
Great.
Certainly in the fire environment, we're for making situation awareness maps.
Yeah.
I work in midstream oil and gas, and I could see like land agents probably taking us out in the field just to get landowner and parcel information. Going out and scout it.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, this is validating for the work we're doing, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of finding the search, so you can be able to search for things and find it through there. It looked like that at the top bar there was, you guys didn't really touch on it, look at the top bar, you had like a arrow, like navigation. Did I see that right?
You might have. Let me.
Because I'm wondering, because that's the thing is kind of how do we use it? Right?
You're gonna demo on the fly, but the demo guards don't like that. So if anything bad happens, I'm blaming them.
Do it.
Well, so my question probably didn't want to go on is, well then, so obviously if you can do navigation in here, then you got to navigate a map. I know you guys have done all the apps for very specific focused concepts.
Yeah.
It looks like with this one, you're trying to take some of those pieces and put them in one spot so we don't have to bounce around. Because that was the one thing we currently have an issue with Explorer. So we use it for those types of things, but you got to go to this app to do this, go to this app to do this. It's like, I saw that's why I wonder if that actually is a navigation piece built into.
Well, yeah, we haven't built it in. We built in the integration. So like if I was to scroll up here and you see these tools in the bottom, still need a little styling there, but this tool bottom right, it jumps out and actually uses the URL scheme of not only Navigator, but also Apple and Google. So depending on what app you want to use, it'll use that location of that parcel or that feature and jump out. So let me,
So it passes it to Navigator.
yeah, it does.
It actually have its own navigation.
Yeah, so yeah, we've struggled with do we want to like build the whole navigation stack into Explorer or to keep it and try to integrate them via like a URL scheme and have them kind of work in concert with one another, and we're kind of thinking the working together is the way we're going to go, but we're still trying to balance that a little bit to figure out what makes the most sense. I guess it's tricky because you don't want to. There's a lot going on in Navigator. I worked on Navigator for like 2 years, and
it seems simple, but there's a lot going on.
oh yeah. So it's like, do we want to kind of, I don't want to say bloat, but feature creep and Explorer, trying to keep things simple. If it just becomes Navigator and Explorer combined, we're trying to.
They use the same because they both work on offline.
Yep.
The map packages.
Yeah.
Yep, they do.
You can reference the same map package for both apps.
Right now, no, but moving forward, yes. So we're working on a solution where you download one map package. Yeah, we don't want to do that, right? We're working on ways to download that map once, and I'll get to you after this.
That's exactly what I was.
You're gonna ask the same question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Download it once, use it on multiple
Yeah,
apps.
yeah. Download
We're talking
once,
about
and that map package has a network in it, and it has a locator in it if you need address search and geocoding and that kind of stuff. And it has everything you need. You can use it in Explorer to do what Explorer does, and then you can jump out to Navigator. It uses the same data is the idea. So you really only have to download it once and maintain it in one place, and then.
It's an R&D kind of thing for you guys, right?
That's
Yeah.
down the road. It probably won't come in until probably we go final and just before the UC. But we're definitely, I've heard it a couple times this week already, so it's definitely something that a place we want to go to.
Yeah, just space is limited, especially
Sure.
when you start dealing with larger.
And they get bigger, yeah. And once you try to embed and package up that network and jam it into that, the MMPK gets bigger. There's just so much information in there. So yeah, you just can't download two of them. Yeah. Yeah, the same we're trying to work on the collector. So it'd be the same for all ArcGIS apps is what we're thinking.
don't need the extension to export
So you'll need the publisher extension to create. Right now, we're thinking you'll need the publisher extension to create mobile map packages to be used with Explorer. I don't know if we've really kind of done the research to understand kind of what does that mean when both Collector and Navigator and Explorer can all support that data format. I think Collector is a little ways out from being able to support mobile map packages, like editable mobile map packages. So because of that, it definitely won't have I don't think it definitely won't need the publisher license extension until we decide to go that path. I don't think we'll probably go that path, but it's so early, it's really hard to tell. But what we're trying to do is all ESRI apps, we're trying to make those apps all use the same data in a shared location. And depending on the platform, that's a little easier to do on iOS than it might be on Android. But we want to get there, so the user experience is you just download it, and then all apps get access to it in different ways. Yeah, these are good questions.
Yeah, it's great. Any other questions? General questions about the app? All right.
You have some animated GIFs you want to throw up there? or
Oh,
anything
do I
like
have
that?
it? No.
Yeah.
So, pictures
I
of
want to try this
kids.
just to see if it'll work. Just like let's see what's going to go on here. After I taunted the demo gods, I think I have to pay some. Yeah, there we go. So I kicked out to Navigator, and it just sends the app link based on that, or the URL scheme based on that feature from. And we have this in all our apps, so Workforce can jump out to Navigator, Collector can jump out to Navigator, and we're trying to make all those apps work nicely together. But where it makes sense, maybe we'll embed components in them so you don't have to jump between apps because it's not ideal.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
very
and
much.
yeah, look for us. We'll be in the island much of the week, and come up and talk to us.